So this is from my couple of years on social media. This is what I have discovered is how many Democrats describe Republicans. And I actually wrote this down because I had to compile the list and it seemed quite depressing as I did that. All right, so I'm going to find this right here, and there we go.
Oh, man.
Okay, so I am sure you have found some evidence for this somewhere online. Somewhere online. So this is how I would summarize the entire Democrat argument against Republicans. Okay.
All right.
Democrats claim Republicans don't care about the health, safety, and well-being of average Americans. Now, that is a pretty big statement.
That is.
If you believe the people on the other side don't care, absolutely don't care, and this includes themselves, right? They don't care about the health, safety, and well-being of average Americans. They don't care about women. Apparently, Republicans don't care about women. They don't care about Black people. They don't care about marginalized groups. They don't care about the poor or the underprivileged. They only care about their rich donors. Okay? So Republicans don't care about anybody. They only care about their rich donors. They only care about big corporations that fund their political campaigns. Now, they're not talking about just Republican politicians, right?
Yeah.
They're talking about Republicans in general. So they're saying people, the Republican mom in the middle of suburban, New York or Utah or Tennessee, that woman, that man, that teenager, that family cares about corporations more than they care about the average citizen, right?
Yeah.
This is another claim. They say Republicans want to take away the hard-fought rights of women and minorities. They want to go back to the 50s where women didn't have the same rights or minorities didn't have the same rights. And I'm like, really? Is that really what they're trying to do? Also, they would say Republicans hate immigrants. Okay, that's interesting. And they don't care whether those immigrants are really legal or otherwise. They just don't like immigrants. They're xenophobic, right? And they also hate people who are not white or Christian.
Yeah.
Okay, that's another thing that I've heard all over the place, that Republicans don't care about people who are white or Christian, or I'm sorry, people who are not white or Christian.
Oh, yeah.
And so I'm like, where do I find myself in that box? And also they say they don't care about protecting children or the elderly. They want to take away Medicare and Medicaid. They just want to gut it. They want to remove it so that they can keep people in their dire medical or economic state. They hate the Constitution, apparently. If you listen to President Biden, Republicans apparently hate the Constitution. They hate the rule of law. They are in favor of fascism and authoritarianism. They just want some kind of Christian theology, propagated through the entire country. They are racist, they're xenophobes, they are people who seek to hide their bigotry behind their religion. They have a dubious love for America, and many of them are traitors, insurrectionists, and so on and so forth. Now, did I miss anything there? Now, everything that I said has come from, this is a composite description from politicians, from individuals that I hear on social media, from pundits on TV. When you listen to certain channels, you hear that. And so, like I said, this segment, I wanted to talk about how do we see our political opponents. So if you're someone who has been listening to me and has been following my path and my journey, the name of the podcast is To Restitch America.
Yeah.
And in order to do so, we have to begin to see the people that we need to restitch this country with.
Yeah.
We have to see them as people we can bring close to us. Because when you're stitching something, just visualize the needlework, right? If you have to stitch something, you have to bring those two sides together, right? And in order to bring those two sides together and create a stitch that lasts, you first have to look at the frays on both sides, the edges of both sides, and clean up all the frays. Like remove all the perceptions, the things that cause us not to want to stitch together. Remove and clean up all the frays, and then you can bring the two sides together. And so if you are seeing the other side as the antithesis to your existence, and the other side is really a threat to your actual life and livelihood, how do you come together with that side? So I'm going to share with you my personal feeling about people on the other side. Okay. So now that we know what people think about people like me and Republicans like you and conservatives all over the country, this is how I feel about people on the left, people who are Democrats, people who may not vote like me. Okay. My feeling is that we have a lot more in common than divides us.
Yeah.
My feeling is that if I met the average Democrat, I could have a wonderful conversation. We could talk about our family. We would have a lot in common there. We could talk about food. We could talk about culture. We could talk about music and have a lot in common there, right? We can talk about, the country and have a lot in common there, right? There's so many things we can talk about.
Yeah.
That we will find things in common. We can talk about our children and have things in common, right? We can talk about, our educational backgrounds, our jobs, and you will find that we've had similar experiences. We could unite on so many more things than we could find divisions.
Yeah.
And so when I look at the typical Democrat, there's so much that we can have in common, that we can talk about. I believe Democrats love their families. I believe they love the country, many of them. I believe, they want the world to be a better place, like I do. I believe they want to stop violence, like I do. I believe they want to punish, bad people and reward good people. I believe in the end, they want a better America.
Yeah.
And that's how I see them. And so the only thing we have to flesh out really is, how do we get to this place of a better America? How do we get there? And what is the path that we take to get there? And I'm willing to listen to ideas. And for me, the only thing that is important is not necessarily, the origin of the idea, or what is important to me is, can we experiment on this? And if we experiment, can we then find the results of that experiment and know whether this idea works or not? If it works, let's amplify it, let's publish it, let's talk to people about it, let's implement it. If it doesn't work, then we should be ready and willing to let go of it. And if I have any problem with people on the other side, my real problem is that there are ideas that don't work, but we've grown an emotional connection to the ideas themselves, even though those ideas are not producing the results that we expect, the results that we want. And so my goal, if I'm speaking to a Democrat or someone on the left, is to say, these ideas that you're pushing, first, give me evidence that they work. And if you can't provide evidence that they work, then are you willing to let go of that emotional tether to that idea.
Yeah.
Because it sounds good, because it seems like it is a positive thing to do. Like, feeding the stray dog or feeding the stray cat. It seems good. It sounds good. But is it sustainable? Does it solve the problem? Right? And that's how I look at it. So unless someone is actively seeking to harm me, I don't presume that I'm going to disagree with them.
Yeah.
And my hope is to have these kinds of civil conversations so that I can help people understand where they might have a blind spot, where they might have that emotional tether to an idea that does not work, and hopefully to be able to show them that there's a better way, even though the better way usually doesn't always appear to be.